Well, hello. Here we are for a stream. I wanted to stream some crazy stuff that I've been doing. I'm trying to release this game, and the first step to that is releasing a demo, both to get input from our friends and family, as well as to send that demo to publishers and really try to figure out how we can um, benefit the progress and expansion of this world and game and these crazy ideas. So I'm going to drink some coffee and we are going to get into the stream. So I'm also listening to some music. So I think I'm going to turn that off for now. Maybe I'll put that on when we get a little bit more into things. Cool. Well, here we are in this environment. It's getting pretty big so far. I think today really what I want to do is talk through some of the philosophies I have for set dressing, and go through trying to dial in some of the details a little bit more. And then probably do a little bit more of a programming session a different day. But really, what I wanted to focus on today was lighting and smaller assets here and there. So first, I guess maybe I'll do a little bit of a walkthrough, just to kind of show what's going on. So as of right now, it's pretty simple. I'm still kind of trying to assess the flow of the game right now, because I feel like that's such an important part. I want people to be sort of entertained throughout the experience. So I've been really kind of playing with timing. So I guess for this first test, just to kind of play around, I'm going to start over and pretend that this is what you open up to at this level. So I'm also kind of looking at my clock as well to kind of see how long it's taking, and then just kind of feeling, okay, so walk right out, we see this thing. That is a central part of the story, so I want it to be, something that someone sees right off the bat. It's curiosity. What the heck is that, right? And then we tell a little bit more of the story as we go through the level. So we're presented with a door. And this door will be closed in the demo, so I won't go over there right now. But basically that door is going to tell you need to go find some stuff. So we go through this level. And it's like, okay, what do I do next? Well, I have this over here, and this is going to take a little bit of time to flesh out exactly how, especially the lighting too. The lighting right now on this, I haven't really given much time to the lighting, so maybe we'll do a little bit of that as well. And that footlock, I don't know if anyone watching this knows the advanced locomotion systems in Unreal very well. And if you do, please tell me how to get rid of that footlock thing. So watch this. If I try to get out of that animation, I think that the footlock is set on either the end of the mantle animation or the beginning of the idle animation. But wherever that footlock is, it's in the sort of the curves on the animation, it's messing me up. So at some point I have to figure that out. But so here we go. We're going through this level. We're going up here. And we find this area. This is going to be one of the first areas where you get sort of an item that can be turned into something else. I wanted to do a little bit of crafting. Not like a lot of crafting, but enough to where you're finding objects and looking for certain objects so that you can combine them to make cooler objects. And that cooler object, you'll kind of see a little bit of why you'd need it here in a second. I really like this idea of like a magical shield. And since a lot of the game so far is like a story of technology and magic working together, I like this idea of making these talismans that are basically pieces of tech. And we'll get into that. But basically, you're going to need a shield in order to fight these turrets. And right now, these turrets are toned down. The programming for these turrets are toned down. The aiming isn't spot on. And that's just because I don't want to deal with getting hit constantly every time I'm anywhere in the proximity. But basically, you're going to need a shield in order to get past those. And we've got this cool little setup. And I think I might actually, during this stream, fix some of the textures of these guys as well. Right now, they're super rocky, and I like that they're rock, but I don't like how much texture is on them. I want to kind of dial it down. So we'll go into Quicksilver Mixer and tone down those textures a little bit and show you that pipeline. And then so here we run over here, and this is kind of the lead into the crafting station, if you will. That will allow you to put together a couple items that you find in this level, that once you have those items, you'll be able to use this little station in order to craft the item that you need. And I think it's going to be like a bracelet, shield, talisman type of thing. And then here, I haven't really set up the booth, but there's going to be a booth right here where once you get here, you are presented with a menu. And you can kind of use this cool looking crafting station that's very like mix between fantasy and sci-fi. And this will kind of be the place in which you can sort of craft these, magical, spiritual tech items. And yeah, so that's kind of like a really, really quick little walkthrough of what's going on in this level. And one of the main things, honestly, that I've been really trying to play around with, actually, I'm going to close these doors real quick because I want to keep some mystery. Although you'll probably end up seeing what's going on as I like scrub through the level, but whatever. Oh, and that's another thing. I was playing a lot with like the origins of objects, and I don't know why, but not really getting the hang of how to get the origins correct when importing in 3D objects. It's really weird. That I've done it in a way that it keeps the origin and bakes the origin into the actual geometry itself, but the problem is, I think it's because I forget exactly which is which, but I know like DX11 and DX12, they do their axes differently. So DirectX, I think, has maybe Z on going backwards instead of up. I don't remember, but basically OpenGL and DirectX have different relations to which way their Z is pointing. So every time I export something from Maya into Unreal, it's on its side. And then when I bake the origin, it stays on its side, even though, yeah, it's really silly. So I haven't figured that one out. So things like door animations, I think I might just have to bake into the FBX itself instead of being able to do it, in Unreal itself. So, but what I wanted to get down to was a little bit of lighting and also a little bit of asset placement. I started yesterday with stuff like this. So my wife and I go on walks, and I really kind of try to pay attention to the landscape when we're on our walks, and see what is going on. And one thing that I noticed time and time again, anytime there's big rocks, so let's go into unlit mode just so we can see. anytime there's big rocks, there's almost always smaller rocks and pebbles towards the basin of those big rocks. So I've been kind of going around into my level and looking at where I have these sort of rock face cliffs, and then changing the scale of rocks as we go down the slope, just because I feel like that's something that I see almost every time we're looking at these sort of cliff faces and large rock features. So that's something I kind of wanted to take some time to talk about, but also show exactly how I go about that process. And this microphone is like right where all my assets are. Okay, cool. So I'm a big fan of Bridge. Megascan has basically changed the game with their partnership with Unreal, and the assets that are available are just absolutely insanely high quality, and I can't express enough how gracious I am for their releasing of these assets for free, especially when making games. They look great. That's actually, I'm using a lot of those. A lot of these assets are in this game, and the trick is to basically place them in a way that doesn't feel like stock assets, and I think a lot of that has to do with placing in assets that I've made, along with lighting and other sort of asset packages that I've acquired over the years. So that is in my megascan, and I know that my folder layout is ridiculous. Someday I will be better at managing my folders. And that's the thing, I started late in the game managing folders because this turned into something I actually wanted to finish rather than experiment, and I treat projects and experiments differently in terms of file, congruency. And I wish I would have started off, but it is what it is. So megascan is amazing, and their assets we'll probably see as we go. I'll probably need to import in or /export from Bridge into this scene so we can go through that pipeline. It's really easy, and I don't know, super cool. But for now, I kind of wanted to look at some of these rock features. Let's drop this one in the scene real quick. I think I have this one. Yep, this one is over there, so I don't want that one. One thing I've noticed too is when I delete this, you'll see all this foliage go away. Oh no! Excuse me. I'm not sure exactly why that happens, but I know that has something to do with the Brushify plugin. Once again, oh man, I think the Brushify plugin for landscapes is probably one of the best purchases I've made on the Unreal Asset Store. So if you're trying to make environments, just do it. Save up $100 and buy those packages because they will make your life so much easier. And maybe I'll demo a little bit of that as well, because I kind of have to go back and forth between assets and the sculpt tools. So I'll do a quick example. Let's see, which one is this? Oh, this is perfect. So let's drop this into the scene. Oh, has to compile the shaders. Oh yeah, and I did some shading on this, so let's just go ahead and change that. I want this texture. Let's take that hue back and turn the brightness back up to 1. There we go. Now that rock is closer to what it is by default. And let's see. And that's the thing too, is I kind of got to think, about what is actually physically going on in this environment. Where would this rock be, right? We've got this sort of rolly area where there's probably been a lot of erosion. So I would expect there to be a high probability that a large boulder could be in this area, right? Because like if there's all this erosion after time and some ancient civilization started building some stairs that has been covered, by thousands and thousands of years of eroding rock, I would assume there's a good chance there's a big boulder over here. So let's toss a big boulder in here. Maybe we can also use it to kind of crop in a little bit of this stair. So let's press play again. Let's see what's going on with the foliage. Yeah, I think that could work. I think that does work, actually. The only thing is now, as we see, there's a tree in the middle of this rock, and I don't know if that actually happens. So this is a perfect example of when I need to go back and forth between my sculpting landscape tools and painting tools and placing assets and geometry. And actually, I kind of have a rock here already, but I think what I want to do is move this over, scale it up a little bit. And that's the thing too that I've kind of noticed as well. Just a little trick, and something I've noticed. When you scale these up, of course, the texture resolution starts to go down. So let's take a look. When we scale these objects up, let's throw a light in there too, this will just be a template for now. Let's turn on lit, and we're going to scale this up. So intensity, let's make it a little bigger. Let's also scale this attenuation radius up. And move this light somewhere like this. Let's make it even brighter. Brighter. There we go. Doesn't look the best, but that's okay. Right now, I just want to show the principle of texture resolution and how it can affect the geometry when you start scaling it up. That doesn't help too much. Okay. So let's just, whatever, we're going to put this close. So as we can see, the closer we get to it, since it's bigger, the resolution looks very different than if we were to have it be smaller. And then we'll do one more that's next to it that's a lot bigger. The geometry, as you can see, the one that's bigger, the geometry and the sort of illusions from the normal map and texture start to kind of go away. That doesn't look as convincing as something like this and that. So that's kind of where there's sort of this play. There's sort of this play between when you can scale things up and then sort of putting in front of it things that you can scale back down. So a perfect example would be like taking this big one that we just scaled up, pushing this out a little bit. Actually, I'm gonna flip these. Let's just rotate it a little bit. Bring it out. something like that. Cool. That fits in nicely. And then we can take this smaller one that has a little bit more of a denser pixel density. I don't actually think it's pixel density, but basically it's more resolution per pixel, I think, something like that on the actual rendering itself. So it looks better. And then let's make sure we don't have that. That would look goofy. So let's bring this up. And maybe what we'll do is just throw this into there. Rotate it a little bit. Scale it up. So we got a big old rock there. Then bring this one over. Turn it, maybe flip it. And scale this one down. So when it's closest to the player, it will have a little bit better looking of a resolution. Do that one more time here. And then to pull it in just a little bit further, we can take some of these smaller rocks and put them around. So you got this sort of gradient in relation to scale from really, really big rocks to smaller rocks. And then let's take a look at what it looks like when the foliage comes back in. And then, to no surprise, we have these trees popping out of the middle of rocks. I think generally it's hard to see and it doesn't really look anything weird like, but for the sake of this, I'm just going to go ahead and fix that because I really want to show off the Brushify tools because they're amazing. So go into landscape and I've set up some layers because I have some water features as well. And in the 2.6 water systems are amazing. The ocean, the river. Maybe I'll do a stream later showing off the water features because they're just absolutely amazing. I really have to say that Unreal is making environment design so intuitive, and I really appreciate it as an artist because as much as I wish I was better at programming and better at the technical things, really I just want to, use my artistic skills to do what I love in 3D, and the tools that are out are just making it so much easier. I love it. And one of those tools is Brushify. So thank you, Brushify. You are killing it. So basically it lets you sculpt. And what's cool about these tools is when you sculpt, it actually changes the way the texture is in relation to the change in elevation, so on and so forth. So let's get rid of that. And also there's these really cool things called grass types. So if we go into here and look into these grass types, they're basically like, I don't know exactly, but they seem like sort of this array of geometries that are randomly placed. It actually kind of, I don't know if anyone uses Mesh in Unreal, in Maya, but it kind of reminds me of the Mesh tools where you can instance geometries all over the place. It's very similar in that like you have this sort of array and list of all these different assets and their traits and this cull distance. Oh man, that is so useful. So basically you set up this list of assets and certain features like, do you want them to have random rotation? Do you want them to align to the surface? All these different ways to have these instances populate in a way in which you prefer. And you assign these grass types to these paint layers. So over here in these paint layers, so like for instance, if I want to do just grass, which I do, because right here we've got these trees coming out of these rocks. So I don't really want trees coming out of rocks, so I paint that area with the grass. And now as we see, there's just grass underneath these, and those trees that were popping out of the rocks are no longer there. And let's say, okay, well, I liked the amount of trees that were there. Let's just extend those a little bit further. So then I can go into forest, which I kind of did a custom grass type. So that grass type is the cold forest grass type. And in this grass type, we can see that there's all sorts of fun stuff. There's grass, there's rocks, and I'm pretty sure those were standard, but I have a couple other like forest packs, and basically you add those to these sections of the array. And so there's these different trees that I've added into and designated their density, you know, what their cull distance is, all the stuff that you're going to want to be able to do to optimize your landscapes. And this is not optimized, by the way. I am pushing the graphics, but I'll be setting in some features in the demo that will allow you to kind of customize your resolution and sort of the graphics level. But so let's say, I don't know, over here I think we need a little bit more trees. So we take that forest and we paint in the area that we want there to be a little bit more forested trees and different forest foliage type. And now we're sculpting, painting, and sort of assigning assets, which is, like I said, it is such a valuable tool. Brushify. Let's see. Let me bring this up. I think Joe Garth. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Marketplace. Brushify. Yeah, Joe Garth. I don't know if Joe Garth will ever see this video, but thank you, dude. I love your assets. This tool is one of the best tools I've ever purchased. So if you're making environments, trust me, just buy these. You will love it. So yeah, Brushify.io, that's his website. But these tools on the marketplace are so incredibly useful. And that's what I was just demoing right there. Was the ability to sculpt. So let's say for instance, and this is kind of what I had to do with these stairs, right? So let's say, let's sculpt. I use this flatten one quite a bit. I was kind of surprised when I first started using the tool. I never really used the flatten one. And then I realized how incredibly useful it is. So for these stairs, you build up and then you flatten this area so that there's a little bit of a lip for the stairs to sort of rest on. So right here's a good example of when I kind of need to do a little bit of sculpting. This gap right here, watch this. If I put this player in here, this is like one of those spots that the player could get stuck, and I don't want those. Especially too because there's not collisions on this rock yet, but like even if there were collisions, you could get stuck back here, and then boop, what does the player do? So to alleviate some of that possibility, I'm actually going to sculpt in some of this area. And once again, this is where the effectiveness of this Brushify tool, sort of in parallel with the ability to place assets from megascan, it really lets you develop these areas so quickly. So I'm also going to use the alpha brush that is within the pack. It's just basically a landscape, but even when you make it smaller, it keeps this sort of unevenness that is you know, way more like nature than a purely rounded circle. So Can change the brush size a little bit. And that's probably good for now. I don't want it to be too extreme. But look, I just start clicking on the surface, and now I'm taking away that gap that would have caused an issue. And let's do it up here too. Want to remove some of that possibility to fall down in that gap and get stuck. Let's bring it up just a little bit here because I know I'm going to want to smooth it out here in a second. So I want to give a little bit of play. So now we've completely raised that area. I don't have to worry about someone creeping in and getting stuck there. And so I also want to take this flatten because I want to kind of even out that surface there. Take that over here a little bit. And then erosion. I want that alpha again. And then I just kind of start sculpting this landscape again. Sculpting it into something that looks a little more natural. And then of course on the edge I want to just smooth this into the actual start. I'm going to turn this down too and smooth a little bit of these tops. Boom, there we go. Super easy. There's still a little bit of a cavern there. So maybe we'll go in here and sculpt this up. And then that's pretty close to this area. So I'm going to use that flatten again, but this time I'm going to use the alpha so it's not completely flat. And then just kind of flatten that in. And then that way too, we'll get a nice little tabletop for some potential trees. And so we'll go into paint. It's the same tool, haven't left. And then we're just going to paint in that grass type with the trees. And what do you know? We get some trees right there. Perfect. And so now let's take this because this is now in the ground. We're going to push this up a little bit. And these are the network things that are sending out the signal from the evil order. And then let's go ahead and I have a light here because I know I want to accentuate this area. I think that's a little too big. I think that's a little too big. Let's go into lit. And I know I have this area and I want to make it pop out, but I don't want it to pop out so much that it's like, oh God, there's a point light. I'm supposed to go there. Get it. I want it to be a little bit more subtle than that. Let's see. I think that's probably a little more subtle. Let's go ahead and play and see. Another thing actually, before I start playing, I also want to be mindful of my frames per second, especially when I start adding in lights. Once I add in some lights, the next thing I do is turn on my FPS because I want to make sure I'm not just killing my processes. And it really did drop that down. I think for this demo purpose, I'll leave it there, but I'm going to have to revisit this lighting because I don't want my frames per second to be dropping that much. So let's see. Let's go over here. And I'd say that boulder looks like it could definitely be there. Let's take a little bit of a back up shot. Yeah, I would say that that looks fairly natural. I think that that definitely doesn't pop out like a feature that doesn't belong there. Cool. And let's climb up these and see if there's like any weird spots like that right there. Here, let's just sculpt that out. That's what's so nice about these tools. So landscape, let's make sure we're on sculpt. I want to smooth this. Let's just smooth that out because that lip was a little bit too rough for me. Smooth that out. Cool. Okay, let's go back into select mode. Press play. And here we go. That definitely helped. So you can jump up these ledges. keep exploring. Oh, here's the next ledge. Oh, I think I might... Ah, see, this is another one of those times where flattening just is so useful. Okay, so we know here, at this height, the mantle animation can kick in. So, but at this height, it's too high. So what we need to do, that flatten brush. I use it so much, and it's so funny because when I first started playing with Brushify, I never touched the flatten tool, and now it's like my go-to. So we'll fix it up a little bit later, but for now I'm gonna make this a small brush size and take out the fall off because I want it to be pretty particular about where I want this to be. There we go. And then I'm going to make this brush a little bit bigger because I want there to be a little bit of a landing pad. That was way too much. Hold on. There we go. And take that, pull it out a little bit. Cool. And then we'll take this smooth tool, get back some of our fall off. Just kind of smooth it out a little bit. Awesome. Now, I bet that is a perfect height for the mantle. So let's run up to this feature. There we go. Let's jump down just to make sure we can also mantle from over here. Yep, perfect. Yay! And that, once again, is why I really, really like being able to have that flexibility with the sculpting of the landscape, making sure it works with the placed assets that are in there. And there we go. Got up there just fine. Cool. Well, I think the next thing I kind of wanted to play around with was... Where is it? Ah, these guys. And I'm using the same software. Well, not the same software, but by the same people. So Mixer, Quicksilver Mixer. So the same people that made Bridge, which is the megascan library or quixel. They have a Okay, there we go. Sorry for that little... No, not now, but good to know. Okay, so with let's put this over here for now. So this is Quicksilver Mixer. It's similar to the Substance Painter tools, but also very different in very sort of subtle ways. But I kind of wanted to edit this statue. opening. Nice. I like this in concept, but like I said, there's just too much going on with this normal. And it doesn't read the way I want it to read in game. So I kind of wanted to revisit texturing this object. So I'm going to take out all the sort of like, I kind of want that moss to be there, and I kind of like that there, but I think it's this Icelandic jagged rock that's really taking away the look I'm trying to go for. So I'm going to delete that. But I do kind of want something that is a different tone, as well as maybe a different sort of I think it needs like a different tone. So let's play with this real quick. Let's make this a little darker, a little lighter. No, I like that. I like it a little darker. I think that's actually not too bad. Let's go into here and make this just a little bit darker so there's not as much contrast between, you know, this area and this area. Okay, I think that's working better already. It's like a what is that? A shale instead of like a jaggedy stone. I feel like that's already gonna read a lot better. Let's see what else we have too. So going to my local library, and these are assets that came with the download of this software, as well as what they call surfaces that I've downloaded through Bridge. So let's go into rock. Let's do nature. We want to make sure we're in surface. Let's look at rocks, plasters, and moss. I think this is the one that we have right now. Cracked beach rock. There's a lot of change in surface. Let's see what happens just to see. But that might be a little too much change in surface. Although, I don't know. That looks kind of cool. Let's go into this and change the scale of that texture. I think if we make it really big, that's when it starts to... The question is, though, from far away, does this look too much like it's repeating? Just turn the strength of that normal down a little bit. And let's go up on this a little bit more. Actually, I think I like that. Let's change this color. Color's bothering me. I'm really sticking to an orange and green palette, so anytime I see blue, I'm like, nope, not gonna work, unless it's like really accented. But okay, so I kind of like this, but as we can see right now, it's really taking over the rest of the sort of space on the figure. And we have these other layers underneath here that I liked. So you hold Alt and click this paint layer, and you get a mask very similar to the substance tools. Want to make sure it's white because we're painting on a black mask. And then now I kind of go in here and paint this other layer. Just go in and kind of add some areas where I want that texture that we were just working on to kind of pop through and poke through. Kind of doing it around areas where there's sort of this fade going on from the moss to the shale. That's weird to say, the shale. I almost want to say shell. And this is kind of adding to this story that I'm working on. And I think that that's something that I've kind of come to really rely on, is this idea that really the decisions that I'm making are based off of the fact that I'm trying to align this world with a story. And without getting into too many of the nitty-gritty details of the story, ultimately our main character, Dawn, is looking for her father because he has been working on these crazy, weird science magic experiments, and he went missing. And then this sort of apocalyptic situation happens on Earth, and she's presented with a choice to go into a portal. And she instantly says, "Oh, wait a second. Is this why my dad disappeared? Like, is this portal maybe something that he jumped into?" So to save the world and find her father, she jumps into the portal. And I kind of want to allude very subtly that while her dad was missing in this other universe, he might have been sort of a central figure for the revival of an ancient civilization. But now this ancient civilization is in ruins, and her father is missing from this universe. So there's some sort of mystery going on. And two, there's this evil order in the background, this mysterious evil order that's trying to get rid of Dawn because she's not supposed to be in this universe. And so they've hired a couple assassins to do the dirty work. And so a lot of Dawn's encounters will be with the assassins. Okay, so I think that this is starting to read kind of like a monument of some sort of technical droid that was created in stone but has been left unkept for a good amount of time. I feel like I want some sort of... There we go. Maybe even some of this moss up here. In these areas where water would get stuck. Cool. Okay, so I think that at least for now, and once again, I work a lot in Blockout too, so like I do a little bit of work to see if it is really working, and then I'll export it back into Unreal, and we'll see if this works, and I'll kind of leave it and go and do something else and let it sit and decide if that really is working. And if I need to redo this texture, I'll probably go back in and do it. But that's kind of what I did with this. I was like, okay, I think that's kind of what I want. Let's see it in game and decide later. So we're going to go ahead and export this out. I want the albedo. I want specular. I want roughness. I want the normal. I don't need displacement. I want the ambient occlusion and metalness. That sounds perfect. Control Alt, I'll copy this address for later. Export. Okay, let's go ahead and save this as well. Okay, close that out, bring it over here. All right. So we have this character. Let's make another material for these new textures. So I believe I have a folder specifically for the statues. Let's see. Let's bring this up. Find this material. Okay. So let's duplicate this material. Rename it. Come on. Okay. Let's also import those that we just created. Do you want to overwrite? Oh, no. Oops. Wait a second. Let's put these in a folder. T for textures, A, D. O1. Let's take these and drop them in there. And then we'll make a new folder. T for textures, underscore A, D. Oops. Oh, come on. 2. Now we'll put those in there. Okay, so we've got our little shader blueprint. We'll go in here. Nope. Take these, drag them in. We'll get rid of all these because these were the old ones. We'll start applying all these textures. So, oops. I'll bring this over here so we can kind of see what these are. First one to grab is the specularity. So this goes into spec. Then we've got our roughness. So drag that into roughness. This one's clearly the normal. I'm guessing that one's roughness or metalness. And then we've got our AO, ambient occlusion. And then we've got the albedo, which is the base color. So let's apply. Save. Now we can go over to our actual statue and let's put that material on there. Save. Okay, let's see. Yep, I like that way more. It looks way less jaggedy and broken. Cool. And two, I'm kind of contemplating that I think that these guys are a little too big. Let's make them smaller. I think something like that'll be good. Where's the cursor? What? I know it's a group, but it's not grouped to anything crazy. Not sure what's going on there. Ah, I'll get to you in a second, particles. Dude, the cursor is nowhere to be seen. What? Is this grouped with something way far away or something? No. So weird. There. That's pretty centered. Okay. Cool. Let's see if that reads a little better. Yeah. Yeah, I like that scale a little better. Maybe even a little smaller so we can get a little bit more of them in frame at one time. Okay. That cursor thing is so weird. Where is the cursor? That is super strange. If anyone knows why that's happening, like these are the only things that are selected in the group. Don't exactly know where the cursor went. Super weird. Let's make them a little smaller. Something like that, I think, will work better. So I have to move that one because it's grouped, and then move this one individually for some reason. There we go. Yeah, I want those to be the same height. I think I'll probably just have to sculpt this ground in. Okay. Let's see how that scale feels. Yes, much better. Much better. Cool. Okay. So now for these, let's scale this down. Let's also just make a common gold material real quick. Oops, want that M in front of it for material. M, common gold. And then this one will be super simple. We're just going to do a vector param to get ourselves a color, which will be kind of yellowy. Okay. And then I'm gonna duplicate this because I want the specularity to be yellowy again, but maybe a little bit brighter of a yellow. something like that. And then for roughness, we want a constant between 1 and 0. 0 being completely shiny and 1 being completely matte. So let's do 1.2 for now. And then let's duplicate this constant, and we're going to bring this up to metalness. And once again, from 0 to 1, 0 being not metal at all, 1 being completely metal, so we'll do 1.8. And I'm sure there's exact numbers for gold of what these might be, but not today. Okay, so that's something like a gold. Let's maybe make this more metal, 1.92. Cool. I think that's looking kind of like a gold. Let's maybe make this a little bit lighter. Cool. I'd say that's gold enough for now, because this will have to be perfected later, and I'll probably bring those bowls just directly into megascan later. But for now, just going to drop this on those for a common gold. Cool. There we go. We've got like a common gold bowl. Let's take this one, bring this over here, make it a little smaller. Make sure it's actually in the bowl. Make sure this one's in the bowl. Cool. Okay, let's see how this frame looks right now. I think these trees, though I like how they nest the sculptures into the environment, I think I need to pull them further away so that when you get to here-ish, right, so right around here without trees, we can fully see these two sculptures. We can fully see these two sculptures in the frame, which is ultimately what I want. So right about here, we need to pull these trees back past basically where she's standing right now, so that at this point in this frame, we can basically see those sculptures. So let's go into Brushify, landscape, and we're going to go into paint, and let's take our grass and start, let me make this a little bigger. Let's start taking out everything and around here. It's getting better. Let's take these out just for now. Okay. So let's play. Let's see. I think that's a little too blank. So right about here. So let's take our forest and place, oops, that is not what I wanted to do. Let's scan back a little bit and start that forest about right there. And about right here. Maybe a little bit more forward. A little bit more. Little bit more. That might work. Let's see how it frames when we get to that sort of Goldilocks zone for the frame. I'm not sure if I like that. Let's go grass. Let's just take out that little area. And let's take this forest area and draw right here. Maybe. Although I think, nah, I don't think that's going to work. I think it's going to crop, it's going to block it. Yeah, I like that approach. I think that's good. I like the way that looks. Because then we can get those sculptures in, both of them in frame at the same time. And two, just looking at the composition of this, we've got the really glorious door, rocks. I think that works. Cool. Well, I think that is going to do it for this stream. We went over a few things about Brushify, which you can find on the Epic Store. Brushify, amazing sculpting landscape tool. We also kind of went over methodologies for placing rocks as well as sculpting around those rocks. And we also played a little bit with the megascan painting program for 3D objects when we edited the textures for these two sculptures. So I guess for now, I will see everybody at a different time. I'm going to be doing these streaming things a lot more because they're really fun, and I want to show this process for the 3D game Soul Recursion. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Bye.